is Your Life, ladies and gentlemen, and week after week you tell us the kind of stories you like to hear about. The unsung hero, the background of somebody already famous, the unknown man or woman in a first-time spotlight, the strong, the weak, the rich, the poor. But there is almost one thing in which you almost always agree, and that is that you like to see tribute paid to those who have not counted the cost to themselves when others were in need or in danger. Now, I don't suppose that we know for sure more than a dozen of the hundreds of people here in our audience tonight, but we do know that at least half of that number have stories that tempt us to say, this is your life. A lot of interesting faces here already, I can see. I wonder which of them we'll pick on. In fact, I know. I'm not going to wonder. What's your name?
Hugh Cochran.
Hugh Cochran. Cochran. And this I know about you, Hugh. You're Chief Rescue Officer and Instructor at Acton.
Yes, that's right.
That's right. Now, from that aspect of your life, is there any particular moment you would pick out? We were trying to remember something, or you were?
Oh, yes, 1944, the fire blitz we had. Over 500 incendiary bombs were dropped. I was very thankful for the fire guard that night.
I bet you were. And any one of these members of your fire guard could have been our story tonight. Any one. Any one of many faces here. Look at this man here. What's your name?
Bill Johnson.
Bill Johnson. I know your name too. I know what you do. You're a policeman.
That's right, yes.
How long have you been a policeman?
6 years really now.
6 years. And when you decided to be a policeman, and now that you're a policeman now, does the thought of the danger attached to your job bother you at all?
Not at all, Eamon, no.
There you are, time and again, when we see the need arising, we see men like this going out to meet the sort of danger that some of us less brave are not able to meet. Thank you. Let's come right up here. I see a very interesting face. What's your name?
Dennis Price.
Dennis Price. And I know from the clothes you're wearing, you're a man of the sea. Isn't that right?
That's right.
You come from Margate.
That's right.
You're coxswain of the lifeboat there.
That's right.
You have a silver medal for gallantry.
Yes.
When were you last called out?
Christmas morning.
Christmas morning. Wow. Tell me, where were you called out to and why?
We've got to Thames with 2 ships in collision.
Well, there you are. We've told before on this program the story of a brave coxswain like Dennis, and we're there ready to go out into the storm and into the sea to help people they've never even met before. What about the man sitting beside you? What's your name?
Michael Power.
Michael Power. I know a lot about you, Michael, too. I have it written down here. You've got the African Star, 1939-45 medal, Italian medal, General Service medal, and you're a fireman and you served at Smithfield.
That's right, is that right?
We all know that Smithfield, this disastrous and tragic fire, was in fact one of the worst fires in London since the war, wasn't it?
It was, Mr. Amnews.
Was it in fact, Michael, a terrifying experience?
It was, Mr. Amnews, a very terrifying experience. Fire is always a terrifying experience.
It is indeed, but terrifying or not, your colleagues are ready day or night, day and night, to go out and meet that terrifying experience. Well, there you are, 4 men who don't wait for the bidding. They're ready to come out and go where the need is most. And that's the key to our story tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Someone who, when he sees the want, or when he saw the want, was ready to throw in his energy, his time, his courage, indeed his whole life in meeting it. I know he's going to be surprised, and I know that the millions of people who know the name of this incredible character are going to be surprised, because tonight, this is your life, Tubby Clayton. Would you mind his dog for him? Yeah. Milk in the dog shop? Would you mind him for him? He'll hold him for you. I know this is going to be a great surprise to you, Tubby Clayton. It is already, but a pleasant one, I hope. That's it. Clayton, Companion of Honor, Military Cross, Doctor of Divinity, Seafaring Padre, and organizer of Relief for Lepers, and founder of that worldwide organization, Toc H. Now, you have already traveled 72 years along many roads, each of which we think and we know has been the better for your passing. Now, this long road that I have here in the book starts on your birthday, December 12th, 1885, in your parents' home on a sugar plantation in Australia. Yes, that's it. With the lovely name of Magnolia. It was near Maryborough, Queensland. Soon your family returned to England, and you and your two brothers go to school at London in Connaught Court. Isn't that right, first of all? St. Paul's. And, as you say, St. Paul's later on, where you and your brother Hugh take most of the prizes.
Do you remember being knocked out by one who was twice public school middleweight champion?
Well, that's a great friend of yours speaking. They're also a holder of the Military Cross and also incidentally born in Queensland.
Oh, really?
So from those far off days, come in Royalton Kish. You don't bother standing, Tubby. Let's just stay there. I'm going to ask you, Royalton, but I gather from what you say that Clayton was a sportsman as well as a scholar, eh?
Oh, indeed he was. When I first met Tubby in 1899, his nickname should have been Chubby, because he had a most cherubic countenance. He was a very kindly boy, always cheerful, and immensely popular with everybody.
Yes, but as well as being popular, he was successful scholastically, wasn't he?
Oh, indeed he was. He was really a first-class classical scholar. And eventually he won a scholarship to Exeter College, Oxford.
But why should he remember this particular boxing bout that you mentioned?
Well, the name of his conquering friend was rather a remarkable one. You remember it?
Sure. What was Tchaikovsky? Tchaikovsky, I see, yes.
Since when, of course, Tubby has never been very keen on the Nutcracker Suite. Anyway, he's a great son of a great school, and incidentally, Eamon, that school celebrates its 450th anniversary next year.
Wonderful. You're even way ahead of Tubby there, huh?
Yes.
Well, anyway, thank you very much, Royalton Kish. Thank you. In 1910, you are ordained and become curate at St. Mary's, Portsea, Portsmouth, the junior of 18 curates, 5 of whom are county cricketers.
But Curate Tubby Clayton's main preoccupation was the welfare of Company Brown. He also organized all our holidays.
They were a voice from 45 years ago. Then George Potter, now Lieutenant Commander G.W. Potter, R.N. Well, does this mean that Mr. Clayton took his holidays with you?
Well, for him, they were hardly holidays, I'm afraid. But for us boys, they were really great days. We were members of boys' clubs attached to 6 mission churches, and Tubby was in charge of Company Brown, which was attached to St. Mary's Club, St. Mary's Church. And in a very short time, such was his influence that he increased our membership to well over 100. Not bad going, you know, for an apprentice, was it?
No. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Commander Potter. Thank you. We bring all these people afterwards and be able to chat about these times, but that, in fact, was your first ministry, and your apprenticeship doesn't last very long, because our next signpost points to a very distant path. You become an Army chaplain, and in 1915 you're posted to number 16 General Field Hospital, Flanders. And later that year in November however, you meet a man whose name is large in our story, Neville Talbot, who unfortunately died in 1943, and you work under him as garrison chaplain at Poppering, and the idea is born of a house that could become a home club for thousands of lonely and often dispirited men in this very battered and shell-strewn area. Now, with him, with Neville Talbot, you find number 35 Rue de l'Hôpital, and you rent it.
To rent a house is a fairly easy matter. To make it fit to live in is not such a cup of tea.
Now, the Queen's Westminsters were billeted next door, and that is the voice of one of those 1915 riflemen. Come in, Grit Stagg. So you were at the beginning, were you, Bert?
I was, yes, and I remember the old house was up very well indeed. We actually helped to put it in order. The Tubby, of course, was here, there, and everywhere.
That was the first Talbot house, wasn't it? Called after Neville Talbot's brother who was killed. Gilbert. Now tell me, how did you furnish it?
We picked pieces from the village occasionally, when and how we could. We managed to get little bits, and one of the first acquisitions was a piano. But it was a very, very long time before we got any dish glass.
Yeah, well, that's where Tubby used to say, give me the luxuries, the necessities can wait. Isn't that right?
There was a necessity, Tubby, that we really had to have. And do you remember we found an old carpenter's bench?
Yes,
we scrubbed it, we cleaned it, and we made it into an altar for the chapel upstairs, which Tubby used to call the upper room. The chapel of St. Martin's in the Fields.
Yes.
And I know now that wasn't the first time or the only time that Tubby had made something really great out of nothing.
Thank you very much, Bert Stagg. Thank you. This house became your whole life, Tubby Clayton, and when on rare leaves you went to your parents' home in Bewley, Hampshire, the house at Pop, as you called it, was always in your mind.
And you made sure that it was kept in everybody's minds, including that of your sister-in-law.
Yes, the widow of your late brother Hugh, Lady Clayton, MBE. Yes, it is. Tell me what happened on those leaves, Lady Clayton, will you?
Oh, we went shopping to buy the things that he wanted to take back with him to Poppering. I had the time of my life. We went into a music shop, and he asked, have you got a song called I Feel Very, Very Ill, I Do. Hadn't been heard of in Bewley or even in London for that matter. And then he'd go in search of stained glass paper to cover the windows of his chapel in Poppering. Remember?
Yes.
A very remarkable character. There's a lot more you can say, and thank you very much, Lady Clayton. Thank you. Well, there you are. I think that, anyway, tonight that we've managed to surprise him, Lady Clayton. So, anyhow, when you went back to Flanders, you took everything you could lay your hands on.
Was not apparently a ready reckoner. Was hopeless at accounts.
That's your old colleague and friend of those Flanders days, Dr. Leonard Brown. It hasn't been brewing too long, but fairly long. All right, he's just working it out now, how we found out all these things. But I gather, Doctor, that you think a ready reckoner would have been a useful addition, would
Indeed, I do. When HQ wanted to have an audit of the Talbot House accounts, Tubby was in a terrible state. It was something he knew nothing about. I was in the Royal Army Medical Corps, just round the corner, so I rather innocently offered to help. So I said, where are the accounts? Pointing to a cupboard. I opened the door of the cupboard, and a large mass of papers and books fell out onto the floor. Those were the accounts. We picked them up, corrected them as well as we could, and I realized in the process that though Tubby had no real sense of figures, he had them, except his own figures, he says. I'm not sure that he's even aware of that. But anyhow, he had a very great heart, which included all sorts of people, and he was able to use that power he had amongst the men in Talbot House.
This is something that we're finding and going to find more about, and thank you very much, Dr. Brown. Thank you. We'll check him later on. Now, although we discovered that you're no accountant, you soon become a legend to the troops, and in breathless rushes, you're all over the Ypres salient, encouraging, consoling, holding services wherever you find a space.
Remember that Christmas service in the old Barnacat farm, Tubby, between Flamentines and Ypres?
Well, he was a young boy of 19 at that time, a gunner sigler in the Royal Artillery. Come in, Enki Bean. Now tell me, why, Enki, did this particular Christmas stand out? Would you tell me that?
Well, this barn here, where we met this Christmas service, was away from the mud and the shelling going outside, and we held the Christmas service there, Tubby, in a shelter made in the old barn. And I was only a youngster, as you know, at that time, and it moved me very much. We all held candles and sang carols, and I shall never forget it.
Have you, in fact, not seen Tubby since that far-off day in 1916?
Oh, my word, no. No, once Tubby gets hold of you like this, you can't get away. And in fact, I didn't want to get away. And for that, I'm no warden of the Talbot House Seafaring Boys Residential Club at Southampton.
Well, congratulations to both of you.
Largest and finest friend.
Thank you, Enki Bean. Thank you. Well, 1918, the armistice, the need for Talbot House and Poppering is ended, and you return home, but not to rest. You become part of a scheme to help soldiers who feel that religion is their vocation. You start a search for premises, and eventually you find what seems to you an ideal site. Rather odd site. It was Knutsford Jail, empty of all but dirt and damp.
But the dirt and damp soon went, and so did my moustache.
There you are. That's a man now who did find a new life in religion. From Knutsford Jail in 1918, now with the missions to Seaman and Exeter, come in the Reverend Fred Molyneux. Tubby, can you remember your first meeting here with Tubby at Knutsford?
Yes, I can. I had a moustache at the time. He looked at it sternly and said, "Take that off. It's the worst in England."
Did you? Did you take it off? Yeah?
I've never dared grow one since.
Tell me, what was Knutsford like?
Well, when we arrived there, we had to go for our beds to the station, carry them up to the jail. Then we had a cell each where the prisoner had been, and we used to go in and shut the door, and sometimes we couldn't open it again, so we had to ring the bell. And the bell used to ring ferociously, and it was bedlam for a time. But Tubby was a great character there.
I'm sure he was. Thank you very much, Patrick Molyneux. Thank you. Your work at Knutsford ends and you return to London, and where you find depression and frustration spreading among the millions of unemployed. And you feel again the need for somewhere like the old Talbot House of the war days.
He worked in most unusual ways, but he got us together all right.
That's an original member of the 1919 committee who rebuilt the aims and ideals of Talbot House, Dr. J. H. Nicholson, CBE. Nick. How did Tubby here, whom you'll talk to later, how did he gather the old wartime boys together?
All sorts of ways. All sorts of ways. Tubby used to write our names and addresses on bits of paper, odd bits of paper, and stuff them in his pockets. Then he sent us Christmas cards. I remember one year he sent out 2,000 Christmas cards. And then he expected we'd turn up to see him. And so he got a label, a luggage label, and tied a long string on it. And he put a bell on the other end. And he hung the label and the string out of his window in his flat. And he'd written on the label, Reverend P.B. Clayton, late of Talbot House, Pottering, M.E. That's right, isn't it? Yes. So there wasn't much difficulty in getting a committee together. And anyhow, nobody could say no to Tubby, could they?
I bet they couldn't. And thank you very much, Doctor, for coming along and telling us about that. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, well, there you are. We've got to press on. There's so much to tell in this story because now a new road is signposted. A revived Talbot House at 8 Queensgate Place, but it is called Toc H, Toc being the signaler's code for the letter T. Now, you go there, but you have to move very shortly because it becomes too small, such is the demand for it. And you find a new home at 23 Queensgate Gardens, and you move. A move I think you've described once as a moonlight flit. But anyhow, so Toc H, Mark I, has established a club for men, a hostel, and of course a chapel.
And then, of course, they wanted people to darn socks and see to curtains.
Well, now, I know that you recognize that voice, and we have a picture of her. The girl that you might remember as a nurse in Flanders in 1917.
Yes.
See the picture of her there? She is on the right.
Yes.
Alison McPhee. How did you get this job as honorary sock donor?
Well, I always remembered my time in Pottering and the old house. And then when the marks were started, of course, I was asked to get together a team to see to things there that women could help with.
Well, we know how very well you did that job because you were the first member of what became Toc H's Women's Association. And thank you very much, Alison McPhee. Thank you. Well, the fame of Toc H now spreads all over the world, but you, Tubby Clayton, always remember you're a minister and Toc H has its own guild church.
It has indeed. The oldest parish church in the city of London.
The voice of a man who joined you there in All Hallows of the Tower of London, the Reverend Ronnie Royal. Tell me, when did you go to All Hallows?
I went to All Hallows in 1923, and it's a grand experience being with you, Tubby. And years later, when I came back from Dunkirk, and the old church was bombed twice in those blitzes in 1940, the first thing you started to do was talk about rebuilding it. And then, when the war was over, with your efforts all over the world, what was it? Timber from Australia, steel from the United States of America, flooring from Canada, and copper from Rhodesia, the grand show. And on the 23rd of July, 1957, in the presence of the Queen Mother, Queen Elizabeth, the church was rededicated. It was a grand show, Tubby. Grand.
Thank you very much.
Jeff. O-double-O-J-A-F. The oil of gladness and rub thy pillows.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ronnie. Well, you are. You see, always these great men want to pay tributes to others, but we must press on with your story because your years have been filled with successful endeavor. You travel the world, and the world indeed is your parish. We've got another signpost here in 1934. It takes us across to Africa, where you see the ravages of leprosy, which strike horror and terror into the hearts of most people, but instead inspires you.
And as usual, whilst others dreamt and hoped, Tubby acted.
It's one of the first volunteers for leprosy relief, Peter Pedrick. Now, Peter, what happened on Tubby's return to England, tell me?
Well, he
focused attention on leprosy at home. He organised money-raising schemes. He called for volunteers. And he really inspired Toc H to take on the biggest corporate job it's ever done.
But there already was an organisation for leprosy relief, wasn't there?
Oh yes, the British Empire Leprosy Relief, a small body of specialists at that time, but with Tubby's energy and Toc H organisation behind it, new life was given into the work against leprosy. And through Tubby's vision, research centres have been built and a drug discovered and now used throughout the world in the treatment of leprosy.
Wonderful. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Tubby.
Thank you very much. Now we could pick every year of your life and find something to say and something to look at. We've got to skip, and we move ahead now to a totally different time where you do something entirely different. And you serve as chaplain to the tanker fleets, risking your life in convoy on the high seas.
You did not always remember which tanker you were in, did you?
Well, that's the voice you last heard 15 years ago on your way to the Persian Gulf. We refresh your memories. I come in, Bill Howell. It's very hard to believe, Bill. Yeah, how do we get hold of him? We'll tell you that later. I can't believe that he didn't know his own ship, Bill.
Well, it happened in Port Tewfik. Tubby's ship was bound to the Persian Gulf, and the ship was anchored at Suez Bay, and he came ashore to have tea with the Admiral. And the Admiral told me, he said, "You see Tubby safely back on board his ship?" And we went along to the jetty, and there were lots of seamen, Liberty men waiting to go back on board there. Some of them were rather drunk. And they persuaded you to allow them to come into the Liberty boat.
The Admiral's barge,
Admiral's barge, yes. The Admiral's barge, and off we sailed for the anchorage.
Well, having got them back, you still had to get Tubby home, hadn't you?
Oh yes, well we eventually did get Tubby back to his ship about an hour before she sailed.
And we have, in fact, a sort of a receipt there that Tubby signed for you on a cartoon reminding you of that incident. And we'll show it to Tubby afterwards. What's written on it there?
Oh yes, it's in token of your chivalry at Suez.
There we are. He's kept it all that time, but he won't have to take you home tonight. Thank you very much, Bill Howell. Well, there you are, 1946. Peace Again brings you new roads to follow, new ideas to fill, and your sense of direction takes you perhaps in search of more dreams. One of them, I know, to Tar Hill, where you may still find that new center that you want to have, the center for all the worldwide branches of Toc H, to where so many people come to Britain and find them as their homes. Now, every member of this vast family I know would like to be here tonight, and in a way they are, because with these greetings from Burma, come in, Neville Minus. From Jamaica, come in, Robert Reed. USA, Stuart Moore. India, Ivor Smith. Uganda, Samson Othigo. Germany, Ralph Unsaus. From Kenya, Ernest Shibutse. The only lady here tonight from Australia, Margaret Collingridge. There you are, Tubby. These are just a few of the people whose lives you've touched even before they were born. Now, Tubby Clayton, in war, you have led and inspired man. You've been a giver of comfort and a dreamer who gets things done. And a man whom other men have been proud to walk with, as we're proud to say, Tubby Clayton, this is your life. Thank you.